Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston with Our Blooming Catholic Life, and today we're talking about circling the square, squaring the circle, and possibly some various church chat in here. So let's look. I've talked about the versatility of granny squares all the time, and each of these is actually a round. You can't see all the gray stitches. There's a little corner piece, some chains under here under the green as well. So the green goes under the blue, right? And then the blue goes under the pink goes under the gray. So you don't actually see all the stitches, and it gives this cool illusion that you've done some super fancy color work while allowing you to play with colors and various scraps that you may have around and not have enough. Like if I had the least amount of blues, all my centers would be dark blue. And whatever I had the most yarn would be the outer one. And you can either put these together in a modular fashion, or you can just keep going and make a giant one. A giant one's super fun in the winter to carry around while you're working on it. In the summer, doing a modular one's nice because you're just carrying around little squares. There are always these ends to sew in. My friend Pam has an ingenious way of doing it. It's just not my process. I do all these ends. I will weave these all in later. I have giant stacks of these with the ones already woven in because I'm making a blanket for my little dog, Rusty. A quick talk on why these squares are preferable to these if you're going for warmth. It may not make sense to you. You're like, this is more solid. It will be warmer. And yes, I know this one is wrong side up. Bear with me. It's because of all of these little holes in here. This isn't considered to be normally a top blanket. So in the summer, if you just want something to take the chill out of the air, put this on top of you. And it allows for some breathing and some warmth. Now in the winter, you want to use it as a mid layer because all these little holes are pockets of air. Pockets of air, like in a down vest, they insulate. So this is supposed to be a middle layer when it's super cold out, and when it's warm, it's a top layer, allowing you to breathe a little bit. So it is multifunctional, the granny square. That's part of the genius of this as well. But sometimes you want to make a smiley face or the sunshine, or perhaps you're like Rusty and you wanted little pig faces. I did get the inspiration for this out of a magazine. I'm not ashamed to use this. I didn't exactly follow their pattern, and making a circle is pretty standard, as well as circling the square is a standard thing. You can totally use the wrong side if you want to. You'd want to use all the wrong sides. I think this is a great texture if you were doing one of those fun heritage breed curly hair pigs. I think this texture is super fun. Or if you have somebody who's really into texture, this actually does have a smoother feel to it than this does. But everything has a right side and a wrong side. Let's get in and try and make one of these bad boys. So if you've never crocheted before, we start with a slip knot. Slip knot, you just loop over once. It's like one of those awareness ribbons, right? But now we're going to go around a second time, going underneath this loop. Just going under it. Well, that's the worst one I've ever made in my life. I hate doing them in the air. It really looks like a pretzel. We're going for this bar that is the furthest under. And we're going to pull him up. You can see it's giant. We're going to snug it onto the shaft of our hook. It's crazy because it's so big. Don't worry, we'll do another one. And you want the full cylindrical part. You don't want this little angled part down here. You're not going to get the right gauge, as well as whether you do it on any side of this. This is the flattened piece where you can hold on. Don't want to do it here. Again, you're not going to get the right gauge. You want the full cylindrical piece. There's a little bit here, and there's some back here. That's what you want to snug it on. You don't want to pull it. You don't want to strangle. You're not trying to strangle the crochet hook. You're just snugging it on there. And that's going to be the correct gauge and give you the correct gauge for your piece. Let's try that again. Slip knots are easy to pull out if you've messed up, or you can just cut it off. So we've got that. Part of it is the tension of the yarn that's on the floor. It's pulling me off the table. We're going to do this a little bit smaller maybe, so it's a little more easy to manage. We're going to bring it around. There, it looks like a pretzel. We're going to go over and get that furthest down bar, pull them up, snug them on. Okay. If you are living in Great Britain or any British colony or former colony, you're going to call these stitches by different names. Everything, add one to every stitch I'm saying, and we'll be together. So I'm going to do a chain. An example, if you're British, you're going to say that this is a single crochet, but in America, we call this a chain stitch. So I'm just yarn overing, pulling it through. yarn over, pull it through. I'm going to do this 4 times. And some people may try and say that I have 5 stitches now, but we don't count the one that's still on the hook. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is what I want. I want 3. That's how tall a double crochet is. And this is almost made almost exclusively of double crochets. So I want it 3 tall, and we're actually going to work into this first one. Here's my original loop. Some people like to do something fancy called a magic loop. I don't bother with that. I just chain 4. I'm going to yarn over again, insert my hook into my original chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now I have 3 on here. I'm going to yarn over, pull through once, pull through twice. That's why Americans call it a double, because we pull through the loops twice. Now, because I'm doing this in double crochet, I'm going to want 12 stitches, counting this one as my first one. So that's 2 already. 3. This pattern is going to work. Some people call it a recipe for any kind of circular thing you want to make out of double crochets. You're going to always want to start with 12. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, that yarn being on the floor is not the most helpful. It's easy to make it roll around, but it's going to pull on it and give it a tension to your piece, and it's going to make your piece tighter than you mean for it to be. So I'm just going to unwind some more. Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oops, see, my yarn split. Remember how the woobles say their yarn is made so it doesn't split? That's what they're talking about. And of course, now I've lost count again. But I think I'm really close, so I'm going to do one more and then give it a count. Let's see here. Pull it up a little bigger so I don't lose it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've done it 12. One of the great things about double crochet is it's easy to see when you come around to the beginning of a round, it stands up. It's a little trickier in single. And if I was making this out of single, I would have put 6 in the center. But this is a double, so we double that and we get 12. So I have 12 in my starting loop. Did you see that little slip stitch I did? Let me do that again. Stick my hook right under that first V, which is, the first V is 1, 2, 3, remember? It's 3 tall, so we're sticking it in there, yarn over, pull through. I'm not doing another yarn over, I'm pulling it straight through. That is my slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 3 again. Remember, that's my first stitch. And if you want a circle to get bigger, you're going to have to do doubling somewhere around along the line. If I put 1 stitch into every stitch, it's going to start curling up like our little snout did over here. It's just going to start curling up. Like if you were making a hat for like a mouse, you would want to put just 1 stitch in every stitch and it would start curling up. And honestly, your hat would be done after 1 round. Mice have very tiny heads. So we're going to need to double. The second round, when you're making a circle out of double crochets, is going to be double all around. So everybody gets an increase. You get an increase, and you get an increase, and you get an increase. One of the ways to look at it, to go back and double check that you've done it right, is they kind of look like little V's. You can see 2 coming out of 1, right? It's a good way to get used to going back and checking that. So if your count's off, sometimes you don't have to count just that top little V's. You can look at the stitches, see how they're in, and be like, oh, I forgot to increase in that one. Now you'll see every now and then my tail is trying to sneak back in. Get out of here. I can kind of hold him with these fingers over here so he's out of the way. Ah, see, I only had 1 in that stitch when that tail got involved. So I have to pay a little bit of attention, but you don't have to pay a crazy amount of attention. It's easy to make a mistake in this. It's easy to fix a mistake unless you've gone too far. So knitting, you can often just, quote, drop down and fix one thing. In crochet, you can't. You're going to have to rip back to the mistake and fix it. The good thing about crochet is it is much faster than knitting, and that's why a lot of people love it. You know, other people prefer the slowness of knit, and that's all good too. Different things for different times and places. So we're doing our increases all around. Everybody gets an increase, remember? The second round is the Oprah round. Not exactly my favorite influencer, but it's easy to remember that you say you get an increase and you get an increase and you get an increase. You can also pretend it's a politician round. Everybody likes to say that in politics too, right? At least on the campaign trail. So let's see. We're around back to our beginning. We can easily see that. We want to make sure we have it. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's it. Okay, we're going to do our slip stitch again. Go into that V. Pull through both. Chain 3 again. This time, we don't want to increase in every stitch around. We'll get like waviness. So if you wanted something wavy, woo, buckly and wavy, which can be really pretty, don't get me wrong. That is how you would do that. Again, if you wanted to make it come stand up now, like a hat, like this is the top of a hat, and here's the bottom, we would just work this round even. But that's not what we're going to do. We need to increase, but not too much. So what is just a little bit? So now we're going to make 1. Remember, our chain 3 counts as 1, and we're going to put a V-stitch in the next one. Oopsies, an increase. V-stitch is slightly different. Then we're going to do 1 and increase. And we're just going to do this the whole way around. 1 and then an increase. Can you guess what the next round will be? Oh, see, it's split again. No big deal. What will the next round be? The next round, I'll say it out loud and hope I don't mess you or me up, is going to be, we would do this and then put our increase here. So we do 1 double chain, 1 double chain, 1 double chain increase. I just did it. I said I wasn't going to do it. I was going to pay attention and I did it anyway. That's what I get for getting ahead of myself. And the next one would be 3 and then an increase, and then 4 and an increase, and 5 and an increase, right? 6 until you get the size, whatever it is you're working on. Are you working on, you can make a nice circle shawl out of it. There are ways to fold things origami, like you can make almost anything. You could be making a rug, a placemat. You could be making a little coaster for underneath your cup of hot tea that you're drinking on this crazy, rainy, chilly day. Whatever you are doing, we're just going to work these couple. We just need to go up to 2 and then an increase, and we'll be able to square our circle. Don't worry, we'll get there in a minute. It takes a little bit longer as you go along, and you can see why good habits are important, because as you go along, you get faster and faster. So if your tension is off or your technique isn't good, it's going to show up the faster you go. You're also probably more likely to split it. It's okay. It's easy to fix. It's crochet. You just check yourself at the end of every row or round. Of course, the trick there being they get bigger as you go along. So if you're doing something monumental, like my friend Pam is doing a full-size tablecloth, she can't just wait to the end of a round to check. It can take her days to do just one round. One of the easy tricks here is that you're always going to have an increase right before you get back to your beginning of your round. So if you have not, you definitely want to go back and count. It's definitely a hint that you've done something wrong. Most people get bored of counting and stop doing it after the first or second one. Look, I ended up on the right stitch. I'm probably good. Slip stitch, chain 3. Do you remember what we're at? So that counts as my first. Now a second, and then an increase. I'll show you in a second here. There's another way to check where you should be increasing. Remember I said it's a recipe, it's a formula. This really doesn't change if you're trying to get a circle and you want it to lay flat. You're going to go, just remember you can see, this is my single double crochet in a stitch, and this is my increase, 2 double crochets in a stitch, right? The increase is always going to go in the second stitch of the increase. So it can be a way to check yourself as you go around as well. So we're just doing this. Our pig's not terribly big. So his ears are actually going to hang over the edge. Did you see it? His ears hang over the edge. You may not like that, so you may want to have more rounds of the square after you've done your little pig head. But again, what can you make out of that? You can make a smiley face. You can make a full round rainbow. You can make it a cloud. You can make kinds of flowers. You can make it a cookie. I think I saw in the same magazine somebody did it as a sunny side up egg, where they did the center yellow and then the outside white. That one was pretty funny. Daffodils are much like that too, and some of the other flowers. And for that, you'd have something like this pig snout, but you'd leave it open. You'd sew this flat part down and let that go. Remember how I talked about how you could make it roughly? Do you remember that? It's when you do increases all around, even though you don't need them, they're going to make it roughly. You do more increases that you need, makes it roughly. Let's see, this one's an increase. And so you could use that to easily make the roughly little trumpet that would go on a daffodil and stand up in the middle of a circle. That'd be really pretty. I may do that sometime. Lots of great ideas. Any kind of animal, really, not any kind, but most kinds of animals work well with a circle. So it's a really good thing to have in your back pocket if your kid says, I want a bear blanket. Elephant's a little trickier, but still pretty round for their head. So you can do almost any animal, bumblebee. Yeah, most animals, it kind of works to do a little round circle. As well as circles, just make nice little rugs and things, right? They really do. You're going to do this pattern over and over. Easy to check where you are. Remember, we're going in the second of the increase. So I can just check. Yep, that's my increase. So I can check myself as I go along. I know I'm yapping and going as fast as I can. I am conscious of your time that you're spending here with me. So we are almost done with this last row of pink. Whoo-hoo. It's nice to have. And then we'll stop and look at the textures. Remember, we talked about a right side and a wrong side. Our tail is on the wrong side. That's one way you can tell. But there are some other tricks as well. And we'll get to that in just a minute. We're almost there, hoping that we end up correct, right? Yay! So let's do the last ones. Double crochet, double crochet. There's only one spot left. Increase. We've done it. We ended up with the correct number of stitches. Why is this important? Because at the end of this round, we were going to change our color. So we're going to do our slip stitch again. Then I have to find scissors. These are paper scissors. Don't tell anybody, namely me. I did that. Okay. Our slip stitch again. And I'm just going to pull that through. Cinch that up nice and tight. See how nice and flat it lays? Okay. So we've got it. See how the V's kind of face upward? Look at the back side. You can't see the V. You see the bars. That's the wrong side or the bottom side. When you can see the V's, it's the top side. They're kind of like all leaning back. You can see how different the texture is, right? We can show that here on our pig because we can have one right side up and one wrong side up. This really has stitch definition that this kind of doesn't. So sometimes you may prefer to use the wrong side, and that's fine, but not for our little piggy friend. Now I have one square that I already got this far. The next round, you can see it's a tiny bit lopsided because there is one mistake in here, and I was able to go back and find it. But let's go ahead and give him a bunch of yarn. Actually, I'm going to use another color just to show you what we're doing here. Partially because, wait, no, I can't. No. Yeah, you know what? I have a mistake on that one, so I'm going to have to take it out. So I'm just going to head and take it out. And we will use that yarn. So this has actually been already circled or squared, and then there's one extra row. Just going to start out with our slip knot again. Take that lowest bar. It's on here. Now we're going to join this any stitch you want. I like to have it somewhere away from this. Other people have the other opinion. So I'm going to stick my hook in. My loop's over here in this hand. I'm going to pull this loop up. Count that as 1, Let's go ahead and do 2, 3. We're going to go ahead and have 3 up here. What is that? That's a double. We've been talking about double a lot. That's why I ended up deciding to do the double. What's next to the double in this pattern? It is going to be a half double. Half double is very similar. Yarn over, stick it in, pull up a loop. I have 3 on here, right? I'm going to pull yarn over and pull through all 3 at once. And I want to do 2 of these, one right next to the other. So a double, 2 half doubles, and then we're going to have 4 singles. So singles, there's no yarn over to start with. We just go under, pull up a loop, 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3. Here's our 4th one. And that is the main part of our flat. So we begin again. Half double, double. Again, if you're in England, this is giving you a headache, and I apologize. And now we're going to start our triples. This is our corner section. And so it's going to look like an increase. We're going to have 2 triples in here and 2 triples in here. So why Americans call it a triple is, look, 1, 2, 3. That's why Americans call it triples. I know. 1, 2, 3. Now, the interesting thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain 3 because I'm leaving space for a corner. And then I'm doing this again. 1, 2, 3. If you didn't catch that, sorry, I have managed to make a royal mess of that yarn. I'm in the stitch next to it. So increase, chain 3, and an increase in the next stitch. Again, it's a treble increase. Why? Because we are squaring the circle. And then a double, and then our 2 half doubles. And then what? You guessed it, 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's stop and appreciate that. Look at that. We've done it, right? We've done it. We've made this very square-like. I'm very proud of that. Okay, so we've done our 4 singles. What do we have next? 2 half doubles, right? And then a double. And then we're going to go with our treble increase. You can see part of the yarn from the last circle is trying to get in here. So I'm going to grab him with this little finger over here, hold him out of the way. 1, 2, 3. Going in our next stitch. Treble. Make sure that yarn's not too tight. Treble in the same stitch. And now we're going to need a double. And then what? You know, 2 half doubles. Be careful, I split that. It is not the end of the world. You can get it, usually fix it on the next stitch, and no harm will come. But it's good if you can just stop, go back and grab it. Just be a little bit more careful when you're back at the beginning. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I probably want to go back and check that corner. 2 trebles, double, half, half, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And I should be on my half. Oops. Half. And then a double. And then I'm on to the trebles. You always want to make sure you have lots of yarn around when you're getting ready to do the trebles, because crochet is quicker than knitting, but it eats a lot of yarn. So 3 in the corner, and then 2 more trebles. Double, half, half, singles, 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we think this is going to work out? It's very, very nerve-wracking, isn't it? And then our double. And I should have 2 left. I have 2 stitches left. We've done it. Rusty got very excited. He's very excited for the progress of this blanket. He is taking a nap right now, and he would very much like to have a piggy blanket to take a nap with, but he doesn't have it yet. He's going to love it because he'll be able to feel those little piggy faces. You know, Rusty's going quite blind, but he can see a little bit, and he can definitely uses his other senses to help him out. Whoops. Tail. Now I'm going to take that out to make sure I get that right. Sneaky little tail yarn. Jumped right in there. We're going to get this. Our beginning. I'm going to slip stitch it in. And now I'm going to chain 3. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to double crochet around, but I'll show you the corner just so you see what that looks like. Just in case there's a tiny chance you haven't done a granny square before, let alone a granny circle square. Sounds like something you do either in geometry or square dancing. So I apologize to all the Gen Xers who are now triggered and traumatized by both square dancing and geometry. Also, I am a math tutor. If you are triggered and traumatized by geometry, yeah, there are some tips and tricks for helping people out with that. Let me know. I can often help with that. Although I have let the 2 ends of my yarn get all messed up. So the yarn ball on the floor somehow got hooked into this. Sneaky little thing. Would never normally have my yarn like this, so this is unusual for me. Although it did happen at knitting just the other day. My friend group were some knit, some crochet, some were working on pillows. Everybody was doing something different this week. It was quite fun. But somebody did have a giant yarn barf like that we had to work through. Okay, here I am at the corner. I'm working my last treble, and I'm at my chain 3. Now, if you've never done a granny, you don't know what to do here. If you've done a granny, you know. We're going to do 2. We're going right under the chain, see? We're going to do double crochet, and then this is up to you. I was doing a chain 2. Some people really like that 3. It's completely up to you. And the last one I did the 3 because I had trebles, but when I have doubles, I tend to do 2. That just makes sense to me. And then we're going back into the next treble as we get there. And that, my friends, is how you square the circle in Granny Square Land. And that one will go nicely with this little piggy. And you can see I can put these together in many different ways. One thing I'm still going to end up doing is probably outlining them all in the same color yarn, and then I'll use that color yarn to sew them all together. If you don't take time to do that step, you're going to see all the stitches you used to sew your squares together. So you always want to have your outside round all be the same, or just go around them all and do like an extra. It's nice to have it really sturdy. I like to do a single, one round a single all around the end of all of them and then sew them together. I know it's time consuming, but it is so worth the effort. We have grannies that people's grandparents have made and have lasted decades. It's worth the effort. It's super fun, super warm, especially if you're making these for people who aren't going to be able to get out and buy blankets all the time. This is an acrylic yarn, so it can get super warm, but it's also wears really well. It washes, dries, super helpful for people. Always check with your charity as to what kind of yarn they want you to do. They have their own reasonings. Bear with them. Friends, may God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. God bless, friends. See ya later tonight. Bye.